Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to this session of Gosti. In this session of Gosti, we talk about creativity. I would much rather say being creative. This is a slightly different session in the sense that in this session, we discuss a couple of creative exercises. And towards the end of this session, I will inform you about a course on creative resilience by a former design partner, Miss Linda Naiman. Now, isn't creativity a buzzword today? Everybody talks about creativity, being creative, thinking outside the box. So, what is creativity? If we look at the dictionary definition, it says that having or showing the ability to make new things, think of new ideas. And typically, it is thought that creative work includes fine arts, dancing, music, sketching. Now, when we talk of creativity in this session of Gosti, we will be looking at it from a product development perspective. Traditionally, in organizations that were involved in product development, the design team used to be separate than the non design team. So, the non design team would typically include technical team, marketing, business, finance. Now, these design folks were sometimes so ill informed about the product that when they come up with design, be it marketing collaterals, product packaging, even advertisements, they failed to tell the actual product story. It seemed that there was a gap that needed to be bridged, and they did not even understand the business jargon when a leader or a CEO would talk to them. So, increasingly, it was required that both the CEO or the leader and the design people they start communicating with each other. Now, when that was a requirement, the question arose that can non creative people, can the leaders become artists? Can they be creative? It's typically thought that either you are creative and you can, of course, work on the skill, but if you don't have the neck of it from the very beginning, then it is not possible to be creative. But there is a theory suggested by Corbelis and Joseph, which suggests that your left side of the brain is adept to more logical reasoning, analytical thinking, whereas right side is more artistic, creative, spontaneous. So instead of being a left brain person or a right brain person, if you try to take a holistic approach, then yes, it is possible to develop your creative ability. And our first exercise that we are going to discuss is that can can there be a similarity between leaders and artists? And this quiz was actually referred by our former partner, Linda Naiman, in one of her blogs. She actually trains CEOs and leaders to become more creative. She conducts workshops. She helps identify the leaders their creative side and then work on their talent. So let's start with our first exercise. Since this is going to be a bit larger video in the sense that we are going to be looking at two creative exercises, I thought it's a good idea to split the ghosty into two parts. So there's going to be two parts of this ghosty session, being creative 1 and being creative 2. This is the quiz that was recommended by Miss Naiman in one of her blogs. And the quiz is, we are to find connection between leaders and artists. So is there any connection, if at all? Now we are given two sets here. One is how the mind process art, and second one is creative competencies of leadership, and each of them have 9 or 10 points, and we are to find if any from each list are a mirror image of the other. Now, since I've taken this quiz earlier, I'm going to directly get into discussing the answers. But in case you decide to take the quiz on your own later, the answers are provided towards the end of the blog, so that shouldn't be an issue. Now, the first and the second one in the first list, how the mind process art, it matches to number 7 in the creative competencies. So let's go through that one. How to create and attend to qualitative relationships in the absence of rules. And the second one is acting flexibly with purpose to approach a goal, dealing with unexpected discoveries and insights, exploring possibilities. So, generally, the artists like to work without rules, they explore things, they come up with new insights and unexpected discoveries. And the seventh one in the creative competencies for a leader, it says that serious play, learning and exploring without rules, safe, joyful, impassioned learning. So even the leaders are expected to explore in situation where there are no rules and learn more from such situations. So these are clearly related to each other. Now, the fourth one is in the mind process art, relates to the third one in the creative competencies. Using imagination to see multiple perspectives. And here it is having a fluid perspective, attuned to the dynamics of change and multiple points of view. So there is never just a point of view, there are multiple perspectives to a given situation or a given problem. Even the leaders are expected to not have a very stringent view about a situation. Then and then more ideas can flow and there can be a better outcome to a given situation. The fifth one in how the mind process art, which is learning to pay attention to nuance, matches to number 1 in the creative competencies of leadership, which is noticing, slowing down, taking in more, and intensity of perception, seeking deeper meaning. So usually artists have more space when they work, so they are able to find nuances comparatively better or pay attention to finer details more than when you are in a leadership situation. So even the leaders need to be slowing down to get into deeper meaning, to explore their creative side. The seventh one here, which is learning to use language figuratively, transcending what words can never say, matches to the ninth one here, which is facility with metaphor, constructing meaning, integrating whole brain generative thinking. So we talked about this whole brain generative thinking earlier. Now I mean, many a times it is thought that it's a flowery language, it's not analytical, it's not reasoning, it's not talking about numbers, but that is necessary at times when you start applying the whole brain generative thinking, where you are to use metaphor, where you are to see things figuratively and express your emotions, which otherwise words would not have been able to convey. And we are going to extend this in our next exercise, so you will be able to understand better the perspective of 7 and 9, and even the eighth one here, which is creating emotionally what cannot be expressed literally, matches to 4, which is using right brain processing, that is non-verbal, intuitive, holistic, relational processing. So our next exercise is going to be focusing on these 7 and 8 points in the how mind processes art. So you will get a better understanding of at least a couple of these points, and that was the whole idea for us to create the second exercise. But I would definitely recommend going through each of these, and it is also suggested that once you find out answers, you are supposed to reflect on the answers to the quiz and consider using these to improve your leadership skills. Now, this quiz was actually devised by John Kimino of Creative Leaps. The first list of how mind processes art was prepared by Elliot Eisner of Stanford University, and second was compiled by the Center for Creative Leadership. So I hope this did change your perspective of looking at things, and definitely help you to improve upon your leadership qualities, be more creative. Thanks a lot for watching, and please do join us for the second part where we discuss the second exercise. We take up second exercise, which is essentially an extension of this quiz. Thank you.